How's it going, folks? You're very welcome to today's lesson where we're going to focus, we're still on the exploitation of natural resources, and we're going to focus today on soils, okay? And we're going to look at soils in the Amazon and then some tropical red soils, okay? And we're going to look at how humans overexploit these soils, which can lead to damage and other things, okay? Now, first of all, we're going to look at soil erosion in the tropical rainforest, okay? And the main reason for soil erosion in the tropical rainforest is when you cut down trees, okay? Because the trees, guys, provide a natural protective canopy layer, okay? When you get rid of those trees, the soil no longer has protection from the high levels of tropical rainfall, okay? Now, what else happens when you get rid of trees? Well, if you get rid of trees completely, you're pulling the roots out of the ground. And those, guys, you think about roots. If you go out into your garden and pull up a plant from your garden, okay, or a flower, the roots, when you pull out that plant and you feel the soil is now feels really loose. That's because the roots are no longer in that soil to hold it together, okay? So soil erosion in the tropical rainforest is increasing as trees are felled or cut down. Soil is further eroded as the tree's roots no longer hold the soil together. Again, you can do a little experiment, as I just said, pull a plant out of your garden, the soil is unconsolidated and it's loose, and it leads to soil, it breaks down the soil and can lead to erosion, okay? Deforestation destroys the nutrient cycle. What's the nutrient cycle, guys? Well, the nutrient cycle, guys, is when bits of leaves and vegetation fall off the tree and die, okay? And when these when these are on the ground, okay, these bits of leaves and stuff, they break down and they provide food for the soil, okay, and they keep the soil healthy. It's like another food source as well as water. So if you cut down the trees and there is no longer bits of vegetation and leaves landing on the ground, that soil has now lost a bit of its food source, okay? So that soil will become infertile as a result because it's lost the vegetation, the trees, and it's lost the food source, okay? Heavy rainfall causes large-scale leaching. Okay, what's leaching, guys? Leaching is when heavy rainfall literally washes valuable nutrients out of the soil, okay? And this is a big problem, okay? Now, again, how does this happen? Well, this happens, guys, when you cut when you cut down trees, and the top right there, the picture, that canopy layer. So the trees have like an umbrella effect. They protect the ground from the heavy rainfall. And if you cut down those trees, there's nothing protecting that soil from the heavy rainfall. So we're talking about like the tropical Amazon rainforest here. So so much rain will simply wash valuable nutrients out of the soil. Okay. Now, if you cut down trees, guys, what else can happen? Well, landslides and mudslides can happen. So look at the picture in the bottom right there, guys. Okay. If you what effect do trees have on soil? Well, the top layer of a tree acts as like a natural kind of umbrella, a canopy layer, and this protects the soil from being waterlogged by heavy rainfall. What else do trees do? The roots, okay, the roots at the bottom of the tree in the ground, these stick into the ground, and these help to kind of bind and stick the soil together. And if you pull these roots up, the soil becomes loose and unconsolidated. And then what can happen then? A combination of lots of rain and loose soil will lead to one of these fellas here, a mudslide, okay? And those mudslides are highly dangerous. They can wipe out entire villages and towns, okay? So again, that's as a result of humans overexploiting trees, which leads to overexploiting soil, okay? So cutting down trees removes the canopy layer. It also removes the roots, which are valuable to hold soil together, and it also removes a food source for the soil as well, okay? As another effect, guys, is the canopy layer. So if we look at the top right there, guys, we can see that's a picture taken from the Amazon. Now, if you stood there holding that camera, you wouldn't feel too hot, okay, or too burnt by the sun, because you're being provided with natural cover by the canopy layer of the trees, okay? Now, if you remove those trees, if you cut down those trees, that really hot, intense sun, which is about 35 degrees, can now provide really direct sunlight onto the soil, and that's bad. Okay, why is that bad? Because that can lead to the soil will either be completely dry or it'll be completely waterlogged. Okay, so if that, it's a bit like, imagine the trees are like a kind of a natural kind of sun cream for the soil. Okay, they stop the sunlight coming in and completely burning and drying out the soil. Okay, so as a result of this, grass growing in these areas is very bad. So in the tropical areas, grass growing is really bad because it's either waterlogged soil, which leads to the leaching and washing out of nutrients, or the soil is, at the bottom right there, that looks like a bit of you know, the top of some brown bread your mom might make or something. Like, it's completely burnt and not capable of growing anything in it. Okay. To prevent the cattle that graze on them from being of poor quality too, even more land is cleared to feed them. So guys, what happens here is, because the soil is so bad and the soil cannot support grass, farmers in the Amazon cut down more forest, okay, and they put their cattle on the new areas of forest that have been cleared. And now when that area of soil becomes overused and dried out or waterlogged, they cut down more forest and move the cows onto another patch of land, okay? So it's kind of like a vicious circle, okay? So it's unsustainable exploitation, okay? Cutting down trees, you know, what's it lead to? The drying out of soil, the leaching and washing of nutrients from soil, mudslides, things like that, okay? The formation of these soils can also be accelerated by the use of bulldozers and large machinery that further compacts the soil. So soil can get kind of squashed and damaged by bulldozers and machinery that are used for cutting down the trees. Okay, so again, to recap, guys, what do the trees provide? They provide a canopy layer. This stops the rainfall washing the soil out of it. It also stops the really hot sunlight burning and drying up the soil. And what else does it do? The roots help bind and stick the soil together. Okay. Now, moving on. So we did focus there, guys, on the Amazon rainforest, okay? Now we're going to focus in particular on the tropical red soils in the world. And if you look at our map here, you can see the tropical red soils are found along the equator here, okay? Why are they found here? They're found here because the perfect conditions needed for this soil to form is along the equator. So quite heavy rainfall, but quite a lot of really hot sunlight. Okay, so you can see here you've got parts of South America, you've got parts of Africa, the Middle East and Australia, okay, and Asia as well. So these tropical red soils, guys, are not very good. Look at the picture in the top right there. You can see that soil, if you were to grow a vegetable patch in that, you'd be a long time waiting for stuff to grow, okay? These soils are not very, very good, okay? So tropical red soils are rusty red in color. They look like rust. If you ever see rust on metal, that's the kind of color of a tropical red soil, okay? The hot and humid climate causes intense chemical weathering, okay? And this chemical weathering, so it's when chemicals come in and break down and erode the soil, is bad. And so it damages the kind of nutrients in the soil, okay? So as a result of this, a deep soil horizon forms. Okay, so what this means is the soil profile is really, really deep and the nutrients are washed out of it. Okay, the nutrients are down quite deep, and it means that plants their roots cannot access those nutrients. Okay, so the nutrients might be really, really deep in the profile down here. The parent material contains iron oxide, okay, and so the parent material, guys, parent material is basically the material that makes up most of the soil, okay. About 50% of the soil is made up of parent material, and if it contains iron oxide, that's not a good thing, okay. Iron is not a good thing for soil. Tropical plants grow and produce a lot of plant litter which gathers on the soil, okay, so only certain plants, certain special tropical plants can grow in these rusty red color tropical red soils, okay. And what these do is they produce a lot of plant litter, so they die very easily, and they can produce plant litter. This plant litter can then be kind of used as a food source for the soil, but again, what can the soil grow? It can only grow a small amount of tropical plants. It can't really, like, you couldn't grow a nice field of grass there, for example. Okay. High temperature and humidity cause rapid decay and produce a rich humus. Okay, so because of the high temperature and high humidity, the soil gets decayed and broken down really, really easily. Okay, leaching washes nutrients into the topsoil. So leaching washes valuable nutrients away to the point where they cannot be accessed by plants, okay? Only a thin upper layer of tropical red soils is fertile, guys, okay? So only the very, very top layer, like the first couple of, if you dig into tropical red soils, only the first couple of centimeters are fertile and are any use for growing things, okay? Now, apart from the weather, so apart from the hot, humid conditions, humans have also caused a breakdown of soil and caused soil erosion in tropical red soils. Okay, so if you look, guys, back to our map here, okay, if you look at the land here, for example, a lot of the land, okay, where these tropical red soils are they're in kind of poorer areas. So parts of South America, parts of Africa, parts of Asia would be kind of poorer areas, okay? And the people here have no choice but to try and farm these tropical red soils as best as they can. Okay, so as a result of this, the soils get overused. All right, so for example, overgrazing is a big thing. So like if you're a farmer in the middle of Africa and you have a small patch of land with tropical red soils, like you have no choice but to put your cattle or your sheep or not sheep, your whatever animals you have onto that soil. Okay, so as a result, overgrazing can happen. If you look at the picture here, guys, we can see the cattle out grazing, and like look at the field here. Okay, it does not look like a typical field you'd see in County Meath. You can see that it's got, you know, a very, very thin layer of grass on it. It looks like a beach nearly with some bits of grass on it, okay? And that's because of overgrazing. That soil, you know, is not good at supporting grass anyway, but because of overgrazing, the amount of grass on it is getting even thinner, okay? And you can see the poor cattle on it are very skinny as a result, okay? Farming as well. So, guys, like if you had tropical red soils, you know, ideally if you shouldn't plant that on it anyway, but if you were to use it to plant crops, you should plant crops for 1 year and then give it a rest in the second year, give it a chance to recover. Whereas if think about it, if you have a small patch of land like this and you rely on this land to produce food for your family, you're going to have to grow crops on it every year. This is called over farming. So when, you know, the soil is not given a chance to rest, okay, and that can damage the quality of the soil as well and lead to this fella here, soil erosion, where the nutrients in the soil break down and disappear. Okay, folks, thank you very much for watching.